Well, it's 7:30. I'm going to call the meeting of the Middleton Common Council Tuesday, July 18th, 2017 to order. So the first item is the call to order for the regular meeting. Roll call.
Bouchard. Here. Hess. Present. Sullivan. Absent. Teal.
Here.
Petrick.
Here.
Olson. Here. Ramsey.
Here.
Burke.
Here.
So the next item is the presentation. There's a Lucigen has been, this is a Middleton company and they have done a phenomenal job here. I'm going to just read a little bit here before the presentation. So Lucigen has received the 2017 President's E Award is for Excellence, the highest recognition honoring a U.S. entity for significant contribution to the expansion of U.S. exports, and Lucigen, they do the molecular biology. The award has been presented annually since 1961, when President Kennedy signed an executive order reviving the World War II E symbol of excellence to honor and provide recognition to America's exporters. The E Award Committee was very impressed with Lucigen's tremendous export growth over the past 4 years. The company's flexible international sales model tailored to individual markets was also particularly notable, said the Secretary of Commerce. So I'm going to let Jeff tell you a little bit about the company. Since my background is in molecular biology, I have interacted with them and known them for a long time, but they are really doing a great job. Let's hear from Jeff, who is the president of Lucigen.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here, tell you a little bit about Lucigen. Most people know us as moving in where the hot tub store used to be. And we get that question very often. Even today I had somebody come in and they said, didn't they sell hot tubs? So it's no longer a hot tub store. It's making some very, very exciting products, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So Lucigen actually was founded in 1998, so it's not like we're a startup. We've been around for quite a while. We've always had a Middleton address. It's been now, I believe, about 5 years since we moved into the current location. The other way to locate us is we're across from Culver's. Everyone knows that as well. And it's been a real advantage for our employees. They really appreciate that location. And then Hertz Donuts across the other ways.
Or the police department.
And then the police department. And they get the joy of coming over because our doors tends to be unlocked fairly often. So we really enjoy our location. It's really worked out well for us. And I don't know if people have realized, but recently 2 Sandhill cranes have moved in and have taken over the parking lot. I don't know where they came from, but
Middleton Hills Wetlands.
they
hatch there every year.
Yeah, they spend most of their day in our parking lot. So that's been entertainment. They clean the bumpers off. And so we all have very clean bumpers. Founded in 1998, world headquarters in Middleton, Wisconsin. Obviously, being near the University of Wisconsin has been a real plus for us, and probably part of the reason that we are here. A lot of our employees have some relationship to the university. Myself, I have a PhD from the University of Wisconsin, and our founder, David Mead, had spent some time as a postdoc doing research at the University of Wisconsin. So, I mean, Middleton, for us, and certainly close to the university, has been just a great location for us, and really like it. We've had annual revenue of over $18 million estimated for 2017. We seem to be well on track for that. We have currently we have about 60 employees, but we plan to We have 60 employees. Obviously, We do have a number of PhD individuals doing the research and some of the operational stuff. We also have a lot of BS and MS scientists. That facility that we're in is about 28,000 square feet, office and lab space. And for some of you may be aware of the different quality systems that are required in manufacturing. Lucigen is certified under the ISO 1345 medical device quality management system, and that's been a real big plus for us. It allows us to manufacture products that can be used in diagnostic products. As I mentioned, the company was founded by David Mead, and David had an idea that if you go and look in interesting places, you may find some interesting things. And he was able, in the early days of the company, to get some SBIR grant funding to look for novel enzymes in the hot springs at Yellowstone Park. And this is a picture, actually, of one of our researchers in the gear. You can see along the bank here, where they actually are filtering. They filtered over a couple hundred liters of water coming out of hot springs that had a temperature very close to boiling. And the intent here was to isolate not bacteria that had already been mined. People had already looked for bacteria. We were looking for just isolated DNA that was floating around in the water. And out of that DNA, so all that we took out of there was water that was filtered. It went right back in. We didn't take anything. The gear and everything obviously was picked up, and no trace that we were ever there. And out of that water, we got very minute amount of DNA. And out of that DNA, we were able to isolate some very interesting new enzymes. And that was sort of the foundation of the company. Company overview, Lucigen provides products and services to support next generation sequencing, which is NGS, protein expression, molecular biology applications. Areas of focus for us are next generation sequencing, which is one of the most rapidly growing areas in the genomics field. We actually supply a number of products that we brand under the Lucigen label, as well as we sell through other manufacturers as an OEM supplier, where we put their label on our product that they sell through their distribution channels. We're also very active in synthetic biology, which is a new area as well. That's probably our second biggest area in terms of sales. And then some of the other things, protein expression, that is, we do a lot of isolation of DNA from different locations, and in that DNA is different enzymes that we are able to clone into bacteria, and we produce that for sale as research reagents. And I mentioned the quality system. Some of our customers, we sell products to academic labs, so certainly many of the professors at the university here of Wisconsin have laboratories. We sell products to them. We sell products to pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, Novartis. We sell products to biotech companies, some of the smaller biotech companies that are sort of feeders into the pharmaceutical arena. We sell products to diagnostic companies like Abbott and Roche, and government research centers. We sell into the Los Alamos laboratories, who will buy some of our reagents. And all of these people have in common, they're doing research or developing products that involve next generation sequencing, life science research, and or molecular diagnostics test development. as the mayor mentioned, we have put a real focus on distribution. We have worldwide distribution out of the facility here in Middleton. On Friday, you'll see a FedEx truck come and take away big cartons of dry ice full of products that we're shipping all over the world. We have distribution partners in 50 different countries. We're very active in training those people, our salespeople. Our head of sales this year, so far this year, has been to Singapore twice, to Europe twice, to Finland, to Australia, and China and Korea in 6 months. And she's got the rest of the year to go. She has a few flyer miles, and she does travel. We put a real focus on this. We see this as one of our biggest opportunities to reach out. The market here in the U.S. is certainly the largest market in the world, but the markets outside the U.S. are the fastest growing markets and the ones that we have the best chance at penetrating, and we've done very well. As the mayor mentioned, we recently have been awarded both the Governor's Export Award, receiving that award from the governor at a meeting in Milwaukee a few months ago, and the President's E-Award for Excellence in Exporting as an indication of our success in that area. I did want to mention that I don't know if people here have heard about it. We've not made haven't made a lot of press releases or anything about this, but we are in the process of acquiring the Epicenter product line. Epicenter was acquired by Illumina, which is located, I believe, in Middleton. One of their facilities is located in Middleton. And we are in the process of acquiring that entire product line. And this is going to cause us to grow quite rapidly for the rest of the year. We're anticipating the addition of another 7 to 10 new positions this year as we acquire that product line. And that's part of it has already come on board. The rest of it should be coming on probably within the next month or two. Another area that we've been working on that we did have some news in the local paper anyway, is we have been working on our own diagnostic platform, a CLIA waivable molecular diagnostic platform that we call the Claralite. We have put a lot of money into this project, and we currently have a working prototype with different plastic consumables that go with it. Because of the success that we're having both in our international sales as well as our acquisition of the Epicenter product line and ongoing increase in sales in our NGS product area, we had 40% growth. We put a hold on this particular area of our development, and we are seeking a partner for this. So Lucigen, bottom line, we love science. It's a casual but engaged work environment. We really encourage teamwork and open communication, and we're located in Middleton, a great place to live and work.
Wonderful, wonderful, great job. So it's well, if anybody wants more information, where Lucigen is, they are really doing a great science, and it's right here in Middleton. That really make all of us very proud. Thank you, Jeff, and say congratulations to all of your employees, including David Mead.
Yep.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next part of the council meeting is the comments from the citizen present. It's limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and we're going to start with Barry Levinson.
Thank you. My name is Barry Levinson, and I am the curator and founder of the nonprofit National Mustard Museum. I think, as all of you know, National Mustard Day has become a Middleton tradition, and it's coming up Saturday, August 5th. Last year, the council granted us an exemption from the food truck permit fee requirement, and we asked the council for the same. National Mustard Day comes just once a year, and we love doing it. We love bringing people to Middleton on Mustard Day and the rest of the year. We encourage our guests to stay here, to eat here, to shop here. And as some of you may know, as a condition of the partial loan forgiveness by the CDA, we are required to put on National Mustard Day. It's actually a condition, but we don't mind because we love putting on Mustard Day. It is a party. It's a party for the citizens of Middleton. Hundreds of Middletonians come out for this. They look forward to it. We provide, meaning we pay for the live music and family-friendly activities. So we love doing Mustard Day. It is put on by the nonprofit Mustard Museum. And yes, it is a fundraiser for the nonprofit Mustard Museum, but it is a costly one. Even with the help from the CDA this year, we might, and I say might, net $3,000 or $4,000. That's if all goes well. That's if the weather is perfect and everything else falls into place. $500, which is what would be required to pay for the 2 permits that are at issue here, would be a big chunk of the net that the nonprofit would make. And we're also giving money from what is raised through the hot dog donations and the games. We're also giving money to the Optimists as a thank you for providing volunteers, and also to the organization No More Kids with Cancer. We're going to be working with that organization and putting on the world's biggest mustard challenge at 1 o'clock on Mustard Day. So I encourage you to find out more about that. It's similar to the Ice Bucket Challenge, but you don't have to pour mustard over your head. I don't think Mustard Day hurts local businesses. I certainly know that in the big picture, I don't believe it does in any way. Certainly, I can tell you that I will be up on the main stage urging the thousands of people that we expect to see there, probably 6,000 or 7,000, to buy slices of pie at Hubbard, to get a beer or two at the Village Green, to relax with a slice of pizza at Villa Dolce, to eat dinner afterwards at Louisiana's and Vincenzo. We encourage that every day, and we'll certainly be encouraging it then. Right now, though, that requiring the nonprofit museum to pay the $500 for the 2 one-day permits at issue, a substantial part of would really eat into the net, does not advance the purposes of the food truck ordinance, but only hurts a nonprofit that is already struggling. So, thank you.
Thank you, Barry. So the next speaker is Catherine Wolf.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm here in support of the National Mustard Museum and their request for a waiver on the food cart fee. And as a resident of this area, the Middleton area, for over 22 years, a homeowner, now retired, Middleton is just my favorite community. I love all the resources here, the Conservancy and the wonderful, unique restaurants, and of course the National Mustard Museum. The other thing I guess I wanted to say is that I come from, although I'm retired now, I come from a background in the nonprofit world. And so I've operated 2 nonprofits in the Madison area for many years, and things have changed pretty drastically since I retired. A lot of the funding has dried up, and the opportunities for corporate donations and some of the federal contributions have decreased over time. And so I'm actually pretty glad that I'm retired and not doing that same amount of work. But nonprofits serve such an important function in our communities because they not only offer this high level of community service, but they bring so many people together and any benefit that you could give the Mustard Museum in waiving this fee. Like most nonprofits, and especially today, nonprofits are struggling, and it's very hard to continue that work. And if you think of all the great things that the Mustard Museum, I've volunteered there before in the past, the great things that they do for the community and the business that they bring in. When I have people that visit me from out of town, I'll ask them, what do you want to do? They've looked at websites and they say, well, we definitely want to go to the National Mustard Museum. And then that leads to dinner, across the street, Hubbard Grill or one of the other restaurants. And so it's just a way to kind of continue to bring revenue to this area. So I hope you'll support their request to have that fee waived. Thank you.
Kathleen, I'm sorry, what's your address?
Oh, sorry. 4931 Hickory Trail, Middleton, Wisconsin. So I'm a Middleton area resident. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So the next one is Christine Brown.
Hi, I live over on Maywood Avenue, just next to the Stock Trail Elementary, and I'm talking about the pertaining the city sidewalk maintenance program. And so recently, in front of our house, 6 sections of sidewalk were replaced. It was identified as needing that much. And one thing that was very unclear to my husband and I was what the incurred cost was going to be, because it was very unclear from the little blue postcard that we received. For one, we were never really told, the reason for the damage to the sidewalks, which I have taken some photos and can submit them to you guys, plus some of the points that I'm talking about. That many roots were chopped off of the tree, the city tree, that keeps moving these sections of sidewalk up. In fact, 2 years ago, two of the 6 sections that were replaced had been replaced because a water valve was, I don't know, they needed to do something to it. So only 2 years ago, 2 sections were replaced, and now 2 sections were those same 2 were identified. So this recurring cost is I have to wonder if in 2 years more is going to need to be done, and that's going to be very costly. And the program that's mentioned really gave us the impression that we're supposed to pay for it out of pocket, which causes alarm, because it's a city tree that we did not choose to plant there that is destroying the sidewalks. And I would imagine this is going to be happening all over. We're in phase 1 of this project, which I think was slated for 2015, and I guess it's just getting going. And it seems like they're moving along with this. This is going to come up time and again as the other phases go on. So if you would consider discussing more about, for one, communicating with homeowners about that it's perhaps the homeowners they were at fault with the sidewalk, or if it was actually something that the city is taking on because of city trees, because that kind of communication hasn't occurred at this point. We're kind of feeling left in the dark, and if I have done all my calculations correctly, it's going to be almost $1,200 just for that portion of the sidewalk for us as a family of 5. The other thing I'd like to just suggest is for other residents, because they had to dig so much of these roots out, they went into almost 2 feet in some areas into our plantings. We did not know that's how far they were going to. I would have moved some very expensive plants and relocated them temporarily, but it's a very big section. And so, you might alarm less people if you at least let them know they're going to need to do something like that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Christine.
Yeah, if you would you like me to submit these photos? I've got them labeled and I have, yeah.
I would wonder.
Here, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Howard raises his hand.
Okay, Howard, yes.
This is been one of my pet peeves for the last few years here in town, is the fact that the city puts trees in the terrace and then the trees heave the sidewalk and then the city replaces the sidewalk and bills the homeowner. There's something inherently wrong with that. I know it happens quite frequently. I talked to the person that's in charge of the program, and he estimates that roughly 50% of the trees that are being replaced, or sidewalk pieces that are being replaced this year, no scientific count, are a result of that. And if you look at that, that's a substantial sum of money to our citizens for something they had absolutely nothing to do with. I brought this to the Public Works Committee, of which I'm a member, and so is Joanna, and I got resoundingly voted down in a proposal. So I don't give up easy, and we've got a new alderman over here who's not going to give up easy either. So I'm going to try it again, and I'll refer, I would like to make a motion to refer this off to the Public Works for discussion and resolution sometime in the next 30 to 60 days.
I would like to second that motion.
For those people gathered here that are concerned about this, and I hope you all are, because, hey, come on, we're dipping into your pocketbook and you got nothing to do with it. This probably will take a budget item to get this problem solved, or at least that's one of the reasons to do it. And we probably will not get to that budget level until next year. But we're starting early enough in the process so that we can try to resolve some of these problems and concerns that the citizens have got. And hopefully there will be a change in this policy for next year. So stay vigilant. We're working on it.
Well, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so this goes to the Public Works Committee. So the next speaker is Jocelyn Sensing, Library Director. Thank you, Howard.
Good evening, Jocelyn Sansing, your Library Director. Just a couple of quick updates from across the street. On a national level, some good news happening with the Federal House of Appropriations Subcommittee that deals with library funding. They just recently voted on June 13th to recommend level funding for the Institute of Museum and Library Services for a total of $231 million. This includes $183 million for the Library Services and Technology Act, as well as $27 million for the Innovative Approaches to Literacy program. So these appropriations will continue into the fall, but what this means on a national level for the state of Wisconsin is that the IMLS will be able to continue providing Wisconsin with just under $3 million annually that assist in not only public but also school libraries. This is all distributed through the Department of Public Instruction at the state level. The statewide technology and resource sharing project that this affects the most is BadgerLink, WisCat, and the Wisconsin Document Depository for Digital Archives. It also affects Middleton through basic development support on system and grants that are distributed at those different levels. Also in national news, we had 4 Middleton Library staff have the opportunity to attend the American Library Association conference that was just held in Chicago. This was a great opportunity to see what's happening on the national and international platform, to connect with librarians from across the world, and also to get a chance to see the vendors in the major exhibit halls. So highlights will be presented at the September board meeting. On the state level, we have 2 staff presentations that have been approved through the nomination proposal committee for the Wisconsin Library Association State Conference that happens in October. And we also have just welcomed 40% turnover on the library board. So we felt like with 4 new members on the library board, 4 new members that were added to the Friends Board for a total of 9 permanent members. It was a good time to get back to basics and get to know each other and join forces a little bit better. So on November 4th, we'll be holding a first ever joint retreat at Holy Wisdom, and we'll be focusing on networking, strategic planning, building capacity for grant writing, and fundraising. Lastly, but not least, thank you so much for your support with the Unity Project. We had over 500 people participate over the course of the 2 weekends, and it was really great to see the conversations and connections and engagement happen between a variety of people, all ages, visitors, residents, even a motorcycle gang from Rockford. It was just the perfect location to engage and to hold a temporary showpiece that really offers a lot of lasting meaning. So thanks for your support. This has allowed the Middleton Library to also be an area leader. We're checking out the infrastructure materials to other organizations, and the Village of Black Earth will be doing their own Unity project in October. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Jocelyn. Let's give her a big hand for all the Unity project and the other things. So the next one is Jose Garcia.
Good afternoon. My name is Jose Garcia, and I'm the part owner and GM of the Abercrombie Diner across the street. And I am here to present my case about the Monster Museum Day party. As Barry mentioned, it is a big party that's been happening since they moved in. The one thing that I wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of it is that it does hurt the business. Every time we cross the street right in front of my diner, I lose customers. It's not an easy way for them to get in. The stage is located right in front of the diner. It's very loud. People stand in front of the windows in my door. So I have the data. The diner has been successful since 1999. And I can show you how that changed once this event started on that Saturday. So I would like to suggest that maybe next year when the permits for this event are presented, the city invites the businesses around to discuss this. Right now, we're under the impression that we don't have anything to say about it. You know, the street being closed, the food carts being in front, and the exception for them to pay the fee. It all hurt the business. The fee was put in place to help and protect the brick and mortar businesses. And having food right in front of my diner, it doesn't really encourage people to come in and eat. So I would like to ask the city to please consider to look into this event to see if we can come out with some sort of agreement where we can, all be together in the event without our business being hurt by it. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say today. I really appreciate the opportunity for next year to state this case in more detail, if that's what you need. Like I said, I do have the data to show you how much this hurt my business, and I'd be more than welcome to have it. So thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jose. So the next one is Sue German.
I live at 7237 Elmwood Avenue, District 1, and I just wanted to recognize Kathy Olson, our alderperson. Her commitment to her job is obvious, and I've been involved in some neighborhood concerns for several years now. And I thank Gurdeep for encouraging me not to give up. And I feel finally that our voices are being heard with Kathy. She responds in a timely manner, and I know I'm not the only one who feels listened to. So I just wanted to give her a pat on the back tonight. She deserves it.
Well, thank you to Sue and thank you to Kathy. Wonderful. So the next one is David Mazur.
Hello, I'm David Mazur from Cardinal Row, live on Boundary Road. I'm here to talk just a little bit about the Cardinal Row elevator variance issue. I'm not going to keep you long. You guys are all aware of what's been happening. You see it in your packages. Up to this point, not going to really talk specifics tonight or with any hostility towards anything here. Just say we're proud of how the building's coming along, and we are hopeful that we can come to a resolution on this fairly sooner than later. So just want to let you know that.
Thank you, David. Well, the last one is Van Nutt, who we all know.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Van Nutt, Middleton Chamber of Commerce. Just a couple of things. I've talked to one. Please give a lot of consideration to the amending the redevelopment plan, and as that feeds the opportunity for the downtown plaza project. It doesn't make it happen, but it keeps that opportunity alive. I think as we've seen with Middleton Center, finally get a fascia and starting to have a little bit of a footprint, easier for most of us to be able to visualize, what potential there is across the street there just west of Village Green. So please keep that alive. It can be such an amazing part of downtown in the future. Second point is on the Mustard Museum exemption. We've heard from Jose, and there are others that that day does have an impact on downtown business. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If somebody can't pull up within a certain distance of their business, they're not going to go there. Some folks know that that's happening, and they avoid. And it would be interesting to see the data, and I'm sure that just about everybody downtown will tell you the same thing. The other side of the coin is that through the course of the year, we do see visitor traffic from the museum, and as Barry said, and I've seen it from our office, they do try to distribute people around downtown and around the entire community. So there are a couple of sides to the discussion, and we've got to think big picture. Do we want to have events downtown? I know we're all construction weary. I think we can say between the dust and the trucks and all that, it's been a little tough, and people are a little edgy, given that. And big picture consideration, as Jose said, as we look ahead down the future, what types of things do we want to have downtown? What streets do we shut off? And that plaza project may become part of an answer for that. So the two are linked, please give whatever consideration you can, both for businesses that are impacted anytime a street is closed. University Avenue, those folks aren't having fun right now either. When Terrace Avenue closes in the next week or two, the first week of that is going to be downtown. It's going to be tough as people are redirected in strange places, and it's going to disrupt patterns. But we got to think long term, and so I'm not trying to support or not support your actions on this, just to consider the big picture. Thank you.
Thank you, Van. Anybody else wants to speak? Yeah, go ahead.
So we're at 32 on Hang Cedar Trail. Here to show my support for item 2 under agreements, which is the agreement with Wood Creek Village Condominium. This is a partnership that really started in the 1970s when the city gave permission to develop the Highlands, and at the same time the city worked on purchasing what was then the Pocus property that abuts up to the Wood Creek property. And it's where the Conservancy Trail is now. It offers a great corridor, but it was purchased at that time because the city was aware of the need to protect the resource that is Pheasant Branch Creek and the Conservancy on the north side of Century Avenue there. And fast forward about 40 years, the condominium development, understanding that the city's interested in protecting the resource and that they moved next to an amenity that they want to protect because that's why they chose to develop and live there, foresee problems if stormwater is not abated there. So it started at the city level with the partnership and a conversation between the condo association and Penny Klein to come up with a plan for how best to move forward, because there's a large retaining wall there, and the collapse of that would be a devastating blow to the Conservancy with just the amount of erosion, the loss of habitat, loss of the trail, loss of recreation opportunities. So all the reasons that the city's interested in protecting that corridor is a good reason for this project. So Penny got them headed in the right direction, got them before Water Resources. They saw the value in it. They've been working for the same amount of time to do these things, and they said, you know, if you find a plan that works, we'll partner with you 50% on it. You design it, you do all the work. So here we have a group of many condo association owners getting together with their board and coming to an agreement, something that if anyone's worked with a condo association isn't always the easiest thing to do, especially when you're talking a $100,000 project, when there's roofs to be reshingled, common spaces to be painted. Stormwater management isn't exactly the highest priority, but they've been consistent in what their goals are for the area, and they've done their work. They've presented all their plans to various city committees. If you remember, we had a design memorandum of understanding that progressed into a cost share understanding that led to a construction MOU. And now tonight, there is also a bid process that the city was in charge of and ultimately got to pick who would do this work on their property. But now we're at the point where you really need to agree to the agreement, because this is where it says they're going to pay you back. So even though they've done all this work, it is a cost share just because the expense of doing that all at once for a condominium association would just be too great in a single year. So I think they've worked out a 4-year repayment plan, and it's very fair. The city will get interest back. The city's reviewed all the plans, approved it. It all fits in with what the goals of the city are. So I strongly encourage you to continue with this hopefully final agreement that will lead to higher water quality and better quantity water control leading from Pheasant Branch into Lake Mendota and the entire Rock River Basin. Thanks.
Thank you, Hans. Anybody else wants to speak? Anybody else wants to speak? Okay, I'm going to close that part of the meeting, and we move on to the next item is approval of the consent agenda. Yes, Joanna.
I'd like to remove the Penka item and defer it to the next meeting.
Okay. Need a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the consent agenda is passed. So we move on.
Moved and deferred.
With
No, but that's deferred. No.
Yeah, that is, but consent.
Still have to go back to consent.
Has to be approved.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I need a motion for that.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay. Need a second? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so the consent agenda is passed, so thank you. So we are on to the agreements now. The first agreement is with the Strand Associates to December 11, 2008. Agreement for engineering services, tax incremental financing district 3. It's the addition of $50,000 finance committee.
move approval is recommended by the Finance Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? If there's no more discussion, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. So the next one is, which Hans was just talking about, agreement with Wood Creek Village Condominium Unit Owner Association for joint stormwater management project, 50% estimated cost of $98,652. Finance Committee.
Move that we enter into agreement with Wood Creek.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, if there's no more discussion, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So this agreement is passed. So the next one is intergovernmental cooperation agreement with Middleton Cross Plains Area Schools District for School Resource Officer Program and Crossing Guard. Finance Committee.
Move approval is recommended by Finance.
Second.
Discussion. It's just a routine item. So if there's no more discussion, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So this is passed. And the next one is the agreements with Navient for on-base agenda management and the accounts payable automation. Finance Committee.
Move deferral. Second.
Any discussion?
I just had a quick comment. Listening to finance, I know they deferred it back to you guys to look at stuff. At the state level, especially with this sort of IT project, we do a planning SOW where they actually build it in for us, and then we do the implementation SOW. So we have a much better understanding of the numbers before we actually go into the implement. We sign an implementation document.
Okay. Any more questions or comments? Okay, if there are no more questions or comments, this is for deferral. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So this is deferred. Next one is miscellaneous, and the first one is the request from the National Mustard Museum for an exemption from the mobile food ordinance for purposes of National Mustard Day. Staff.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments or discussion? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think going forward, maybe next year we could find a better spot to put this, maybe on the, what's it called, the Hubbard that goes around Aurora or something, so it's not right in front of the businesses.
Sounds like a good idea. We could just have only on the parameter. So, okay. So if there's no more questions or discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion is passed. So the next one is proposal for City Assessor Paul Musser to conduct a reevaluation for the 2018 assessment year. Finance.
I move that we refer to the Personnel Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, no more discussion. Now, all those in favor of this motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion is passed. So the next one is proposal from Bray Architects for fire and EMS space needs study and facility location.
Skip 3.
Can we go back to number 1 for just a second? Was there somebody that opposed number 1?
Oh, okay.
No, okay, sorry.
Okay, wait a second.
The council authorization.
This was the revised version, that's it. Okay, somehow. Okay, all right. So we can go here. So, okay. So this is item number 3. Somehow which I skipped is the council authorization for appeal of state's determination to grant a variance to Cardinal Row, City Attorney and Finance Committee.
Move approval of the authorization as recommended by the Finance Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? Any?
I will ask a question as a junior council member.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any way to do something in terms of negotiation, or I guess I'm thinking that of lawyers, more of a, what is that called when they bring in someone, a referee?
Arbitration?
This is an administrative appeal. It'll all be wrapped up within 30 days. So there's really not much opportunity for mediating or anything like that.
So there isn't a whole lot one can do at this stage.
No.
Thank you, Larry.
Okay, any more questions or comments or? Okay, if there are no more questions or comments, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the motion passes. So the next one is the ordinances. First reading, final action may be taken upon approval of the.
Number 4.
Bray.
Oh, the Bray, okay, I'm sorry, I guess we had missed that one. Proposal from Bray Architects for fire and EMS space needs study and facility location and architectural solution analysis. Finance Committee.
Move was recommended by the Finance Committee, and that's for deferral.
Second.
Any discussion? Any questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, I call the question. All those in favor of this deferral say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. Now on to the ordinances. First reading, final action may be taken upon approval of the motion to suspend rules under section 1.07 Middleton General Ordinances. So the first one is the ordinance to update section 30.01 statutory references. City Attorney.
This is an ordinance that we are supposed to adopt every session of the legislature. We've fallen behind, but now we will be in compliance once again. It's of assistance in prosecutions.
Okay, I need a motion to
Move approval and suspend the rules at the same time.
Second.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? It's just routine. Okay, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. Next one is the ordinance to authorize change for checks returned for insufficient funds, L&O.
Move approval is recommended by L&O.
Second.
Any questions?
The only question I have is this, I agree with this so far, but is there a rampant problem right now, or is this just good common fiscal sense here?
This was actually put forward upon my request. I would estimate we have 3 to 4 of these per month.
Okay.
It takes an hour or two of staff time to follow up with any sort of return check. That's just meant to reimburse the city for some of our time related to this.
Fair enough, thank you.
Yeah.
3 to 4 per month. That's quite a few. Huh? Okay. Any more questions? Okay. There are no more.
This is just first reading approval, correct?
Okay.
That's the motion.
Okay, the first reading. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the first reading motion is passed. So the next one is the ordinance to amend section 15.04 relating to no parking anytime restrictions, L&O.
Move approval per L&O.
Second.
Any questions, comments, discussion? If there's no more questions or concerns, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So this is passed. We move on to planning and zoning. Specific implementation plan modification, Seco Foods expansion, 1845 Deming Way, Plan Commission.
Full approval is recommended by the Finance Committee.
That was the second one. This is
Okay.
Okay, Plan Commission. We got how many? 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Anybody? Well, I guess any kind of.
Seconded.
Okay. Any questions or discussion or comments? Okay, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So motion is passed. So the next one is a request for tax incremental finance district 3 assistance from Seco Foods, 1845 Deming Way.
Full approval is recommended by the Finance Committee.
Okay.
Second.
How much is, so that the public knows, how much is that tax assistance?
It's 314.
It's
Three.
$315,000. It's developer finance TIF assistance. That represents 100% of the increment that we expect that the project will generate over the life of the district. And because it's developer finance TIF, if the assessed value that we're projecting comes in lower, then obviously the taxes are reimbursed at the lower amount. So the city's not on the hook for a reduced assessment if it.
Developer financing.
Yep.
And if it comes in higher, then city gets the money.
And what are they going to do?
They would like to put on a 20,000 square foot expansion on their facility on Terrace Avenue. So they're expanding to the east as well as to the south. And 15,000 square feet of that is manufacturing, and the other 5,000 is office.
Great, thank you.
Any more questions for Abby? Any more questions or comments? Okay, then if there's no more questions or comments, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion is passed. So the next one, item number 3, the concept review for Trista mixed-use development, including Milton Market, 7622 Lisa Lane.
I move that we defer this item until we have plans submitted by the developer.
Do you want to do 3 and 4?
And I would do 4 in,
3 and 4 together?
yes.
Okay. Any questions? You guys know about this development, where it's happening. Any comments?
We need the plans from the developer.
Yes. So we need the plans before we can vote on it. So, okay, I call the question. All those for both 3 and 4. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. The next one is number 5, updated Walker parking study, Milton Center, Hubbard Avenue, Parliamentary Street, Elmwood, Parliamentary Street, Terrace Avenue. Plan Commission, Finance Committee, for what?
Who's up?
Kathy.
Move approval.
Second.
Any question? This is simply proving the Walker parking study.
Eileen, could you take a couple minutes and give us the bullet points?
Yes, enlighten us.
Enlighten us.
About the parking? No, I'm just kidding. So this is one of the updates that Walker Parking did for us, for the city, paid for by the developer and controlled by the city. And it looked at their latest proposal to increase the number of restaurant seats and change in the second phase 20,000 square feet of office to 14 apartments. And what it found was that changing that mix did result in some parking shortfalls. So there were some recommendations that the study made. One of the things that the developer proposed and staff recommended to Plan Commission, and you'll see it later on, I think the next couple items, is one of the ways to help remedy the issue is to put in more lifts. 17 more lifts in phase 1 and 29 in phase 3. And the parking deficit or shortfall is really after 5 p.m. and during the week if the additional, and it's also after all 3 phases, but if those additional lifts are put in, the shortfall falls to, if I can say it that way, to 6 after 5 p.m. during the week. And on weekends after 5 p.m., it goes to 58 from about 104. But with those additional lifts, it cuts it almost in half. And the developer is still proposing what they will do to make that up. They have ideas. They discussed it with the Plan Commission. They're working on an updated parking management plan that will be at the Plan Commission, I believe, next Tuesday. I'm back here on the 1st, and that will detail more of the plans to handle that parking. But they are addressing the Walker parking findings. And we're very pleased about having Walker parking to analyze the shared parking. It's very nice to have, as one of our Plan Commission members called them, the gold standard of parking standards and analysis working on. So I mean, they're nationally known, so they're a national firm. Does that help? Does that
Question for Eileen.
Yeah, Eileen, by approving this, are you saying that we are approving the recommendations that the Plan Commission put on it? Is that correct?
Well, there'll be recommendations that are on the development. Essentially, you're just recognizing that the Walker parking study was completed and accepting that or approving
So,
that.
motion just simply say accepting the Walker parking study.
Accepting or approving.
And not tagging it to anything that needs to be done.
Right.
Okay.
And then the action things are in the GIP and SIP and Walker and the parking management plan.
And therefore, one assumes staff is happy with the plan. And
Yeah.
They're still working on some details.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. The developer has agreed to all the conditions, so.
I meant the Walker.
The Walker one, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
And like the mayor said, we're also working with the developer on all the other ones. So.
Okay, any more questions either for Eileen or anyone else? Any comments? If there are no more questions, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So this motion is passed. So the next one is proposed general implementation plan modification for Middleton Center, Hubbard Avenue, Parmenter Street, Elmwood Avenue, Parmenter Street, and Terrace Avenue. This is general implementation plan modification.
Should just take it up there.
Yes, Eileen.
Okay. Well, this change is by phase, but it's on the first phase, it is adding restaurant seats within the existing retail that was approved. And the second phase, it would be, like I said earlier, converting what's already approved as 20,000 square feet of office into 14 apartments. And it puts the office use or the office square footage of the development, the total 3 phases, at about 24,000, which is about 2/3 of what was initially approved about a year and a half ago. There's 36,000 square feet of office approved, and then we had a GIP amendment and a hearing, and that got increased by about 20,000 square feet, with 25, and now it's being reduced again, and the mix is changing to the 14 apartments. So those are the main changes. And there are conditions of approval that have to be satisfied. So the developer's working on them, I know. We have a list and we've provided it to them. So.
Do you have any questions for Eileen before making a motion?
So,
yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Is the main concern here how it will affect parking, or is it how it will affect the tax base with the way this is changing the use of the land?
Sure. Well, that's good questions. It actually increases the tax-based value, and they will be proposing in the. I don't know if you saw in my memo that I wrote about the GIP and SIP. The Planning Commission actually made a recommendation on an increased tax increment to be awarded to the project, developer financed, but we didn't put it on the council agenda, and Bill and Melissa and Abby and Mike can correct me if I'm wrong, because they actually are working on an additional increase, and so rather than bring it 2 times, we just waited. But again, it's developer financed. There's an increased value, and we are reviewing that and would hope to have it on the agenda for the Planning Commission next week, and then back to the council for August 1st. Did I answer that question?
Okay, I'll get it.
All right.
if we approve this, are we approving contingent on the modifications made by the developer based on what you've requested?
Yeah, and Larry can probably answer that too, but there are conditions of approval, and they do have to be satisfied. So, and we may not yet need a public hearing as well, but Larry and I are talking about that. So.
Yeah, this is a work in process. I think is the best way of considering it. But if you do approve this, this is a stage of a larger approval. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yes, Howard.
Eileen, watching this project over the last couple of years, and especially in the planning and approval, it's, if you came back and look at it, it almost looks like it's a revolving door. Every few weeks, something changes, something gets added, something gets deleted. Is that atypical of a development like this?
I think part of the reason we're seeing that is because if it were a straight planned development district, by straight I mean with the parking that would normally be ascribed to that development, that square footage, like Greenway Station, for instance, and Greenway Center, they had X amount of square feet and they had X amount of parking. In that case, they had more parking. The situation here, and the reason we see the changes, you know, that they're coming back to is it's not just a matter of the mix is changing within the project, but that has an impact then on the shared parking analysis. And you know, I think everybody was supportive of using the shared parking, provided the rationale provided by Walker Parking, again, the gold standard. But what that does is anytime there's a change in the mix, it changes, or it doesn't necessarily change, but it requires us to analyze what does that do. In the case of changing to the 14 apartments, it meant that at night, more people would be in the garage because presumably there's X number or X percentage of people that would have their car in the parking ramp or the underground garage that otherwise wouldn't have been if it was office. So it's not that it's a unusual request, it just changes the parking mix. So that's why we wanted it to be so carefully reviewed. And you know, we still, as I've said before, even if they had met it or exceeded it, we could still have parking issues depending on the situation. We may not have any with this, we may have some, but we've made a decision, I think, as a city to go with something that across the country, you know, they look at the Urban Land Institute numbers and then based on a shared parking with some comfort built into those numbers. So there's some factor that could help provide some, I don't want to say excess, but some extra if necessary.
Looking at the tables in the Walker study, correct me if I'm wrong, but there still looms a substantial parking deficit before the whole thing is done. Is that a fair statement?
Well, it's after 5. There would have been, oh, sorry, I'm getting tired. I know that with the addition of 46 lifts, there's only 6 after 5, and on weekdays. During the weekend, it's larger. It's 104 before the extra lifts are added in. I think it's 58 after that. So they've got to come up with the 58. One of the ways they proposed is to maybe have 20% of that covered by the developer buying reduced bus passes for restaurant employees. Because the way shared parking works is they're not just saying, you know, it's not just a formula for square footages or restaurant seats. It's actually assuming how many people are employed at those hours. And so that might be one way that they would handle it. They might look to some of the public lots, for instance, the Veterans Health Administration lot where we have an agreement that people can park after hours. And that is the shortfall is at night.
So the developer is conscientiously working with staff?
Yes.
You're going to get this all solved sooner or later. I know it's been hanging over the project since it started. And I'm just curious as to how long this is going to go on. It's one week after another.
Sure. Well, certainly by the time we get to phase 3, and all those numbers are after completion of phase 3, but phase 3 is, oh, maybe I should knock on wood. It's a little simpler because it's mainly apartments, but with about 5,000 square feet of office or retail. So it's, by that time, it's going to be simpler. The toughest thing were the 2 changes that they're making with regard to what they see as the market. So, and it's adding about 10%. No, not quite 10%. More apartments, maybe it's 8% or something, so.
Yeah, it's 14 more apartments, so it's
So maybe
about,
it's 7%.
It's about 7%, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Usually I'm really good at numbers, I swear. I'm just getting tired.
So, any more questions for Eileen here?
Eileen, with you on duty for this process, I just want to compliment you on not going crazy.
That's making some assumptions.
I promised my wife I could say that.
Well, thank you. Well, and I think
when it's going to happen from this.
Yeah, right. Well, there are a lot of numbers that we're all dealing with, and you're all dealing with. But the first phase does look very nice, and it does exceed our expectations in terms of the mix and the way it looks. So we're happy.
Okay, so I need a motion.
Sorry. Motion to accept the modification of the general implementation plan.
Need a,
Sorry.
need a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Is that with the recommendations from the planning department?
With all
And staff
recommendations, yes.
Yeah, so it does include all the recommendation from, and all the conditions and everything. So that's what your motion is, right?
Yeah, thank you. That
And
is
that's
my
a big
motion.
list. I think that's 46 or 47 conditions, so. Okay, any more questions for Aline or anyone else, or any comments? Well, I call the question, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so GIP is passed. And the next item is proposed specific implementation plan modification for Middleton Center Phase 2, 7609 and 7611 Elmwood Avenue.
Move approval, including staff recommendations and planning committee recommendations.
Second.
Okay, Aline, you want to say anything now?
No, I just wanted to be here for questions.
Okay, any questions for Aline?
Again, the main change here is the converting 20,000 square feet of previously approved office space to
14 apartments, which leads to more parking issues, so, yes.
Less during the day, less parking needs during the day.
Yes.
Certain assumption how people will take their cars. So.
I've asked Abby this, but I'll throw it at you too. Do you ever have any concerns about the number of apartments we're building?
Sure, and I understand that question. I think historically we've been about 50% multifamily. I think we're over that, and we're headed, to higher than that. But one of the things, if you look back at the apartment projects that have been approved over the last few years, and I can put together, some information and analysis of it, the majority of them have been either redevelopment projects and infill, or in areas, and sometimes both, where we really want apartments next to jobs. The Market West one and the Foundry are two in Greenway Station. We've always felt that there was a housing shortage there. There's thousands of jobs within walking distance of that area. The only housing that had previously been there was 582 apartments in the Galena project at Greenway Boulevard and Pleasant View. So the addition of about 89 in Foundry and 240 in Market West really put housing where there's jobs. And then downtown, again, it's redevelopment and densification. There's also been strong desire to have more workforce housing, and some of the projects that have been approved and built have satisfied that as well. And I think one of the things that the city's looking for going forward is that, most projects would help satisfy some need of that, of the affordable housing. So the projects on Lisa Lane are affordable, and in some cases for a very low amount of the AMI, the median income. So I think if you look at it, there's a reason why. In Tribeca, there were about 180 units built, 180 to 200. That's how many the the original Tribeca plan had in it, about that number of housing units. So we've pretty much fulfilled that in that area. So, but I think it is something to, looking forward, or, it's something to think about. There's a large component of multifamily, some about half and half condo and apartments in community Bishops Bay. So we will have that probably starting in 2019. There's already been about 200 apartments built there.
So Eileen, for the comparison, what is the vacancy rate for apartments?
It's less than 2%. I don't know, Abby, do you have an updated?
It's just a little over 1% now.
Okay.
As of the last quarter.
And that's for a comparison, what we've been told, you guys probably have all heard it, is that a 5% vacancy rate is a healthy amount. 2%, 1% is basically somebody moving out on Monday and somebody else moving in on Wednesday. And one of the things I was also going to talk about, thank you for that question too, is, it's not, some people say, well, it's just Epic, and, I've heard that before out in the community or Dane County, it's Epic employees. And I think there's national trends, and I'm not an expert at all, I just heard about it and read about it. The millennials, in some cases, want to, they've seen their parents work their whole lives and, work every weekend on yard work. They don't necessarily want to do that, they want to be more mobile. It's empty nesters who are thinking, well, they still want a presence, but they want to spend, some months elsewhere, or they just want to downsize and, have more mobility. So there's national trends that are also affecting that. And certainly in Dane County, I've heard about a study that Madison did that showed just if I'm wrong, just to stay even with the demand, they needed to provide about 1,000 units a year. So I guess my philosophy is, if the city is looking at areas where we think it's appropriate because it's infill or redevelopment or densification or providing workforce housing or providing housing where jobs are, it's, it makes some sense.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Kathy.
And also, these have a lot of high-end finishes on it. They're high-end apartments, and that we asked them they would be condo ready, where there'd be more insulation in between the units. There'd be, different features where if it need, if the rental market just went, then we'd have that as that there may be that option.
And that's a good point too. I've heard people have called before saying, "Gosh, I wish they were condos. I wish there were condos in downtown Middleton. I'd love to, own something there." And I think, I certainly understand that. So hopefully that will happen at some point, and some of them are condo ready or will be built that way.
Okay. Any more questions or comments? Okay, if there are no more questions or comments, I call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? So SIP is passed. So now comes the resolutions.
Okay, I just want to help.
Okay.
The first one really shouldn't be on the agenda because it's a CDA resolution.
Okay.
The one that's properly on the agenda is number 2.
Okay, so we skip number 1 and we go to number 2.
I think
we have to table it. I think you have to have action to get it off.
Do we need to table it?
I move to table it. Second.
Okay, so any question, discussion? Larry, is that ready to go?
Well, I don't know what's going on, so I'm not going to interfere.
Okay, all right. So if there are no more questions or concerns, I call all those in favor in tabling this, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? So the tabling is passed. So all right, now comes Larry. Yes, Larry. So do I need to just move on to this one, or there's anything else you want to do?
I'll move approval of
Okay, 2017-28 approving amendment number 1 to redevelopment plan number 1 PCCDA. Okay, so I need a second.
I'll second.
Do you know what's happening here? Arlene, do you want to say something?
I think the only reason that they put it on the agenda was the first one for the CDA was just so that you could see that the CDA passed it. I don't think we'd had our signatures yet, so that was just why. It wasn't really for action. It's the 2017-28 one, as people have said, that adds the properties west of Village Green to the redevelopment plan. Okay, I'm going to sit down.
Okay. Okay, any more questions, comments, concerns? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? So the motion is passed. So the next one is resolution 2017-29 authorizing entry into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement relating to the Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative and authorizing participation in the investment program of the Finance Committee. Any questions? Bill, you want to tell anybody what you're doing here, or should we go?
This action would just add add an additional investment option for the city. The Wisconsin Investment Cooperative is a collection of municipalities, and this provides another fund for short-term funds, about 2 to 3 months. It's a program that's heavily used by school districts and are starting to move into municipalities.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Any questions? Yes. Okay. All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. So the next one is 2017-13 Milton Common Council support of the Paris Agreement Sustainability Committee.
I'll move approval as recommended by Sustainability.
Second.
Any questions?
I just want to thank staff for bringing this to our attention, similar to resolutions that Winona has done, also similar to the actions that the Dane County Executive has been making. And it was unanimously passed last night by the Sustainability Committee.
Wonderful. And I had already signed on to as a mayor of Middleton, which I think about 280 mayors all across the U.S. signed. So, okay, any questions, concerns, comments? I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So we are there. So the next one is 2017-31 authorizing amendments to Midwestern Disaster Area Industrial Development Revenue Bond Series 2012 Live Taco LLC project issued June 26, 2012. And I think, okay.
Move approval as recommended by Finance.
Need a second? So essentially the developer is refinancing part of his stuff, so.
Correct.
Any questions? Larry, you want to say anything? Okay. I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. So now it's on to the committee appointments, and the very first one is the referral for the proposed ordinance changes for Sustainability Committee and the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. It's simply, I'm requesting that we add a few members, and I'm sending it to those committees. If they think it's appropriate, they will say yes, otherwise they will say no. So I need a motion.
Make the motion that we refer them to the appropriate committees, sustainability and pedestrian bike.
Okay, need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions or concern or discussion?
Why do we need to increase the size of the committees?
Well, I tell you about Sustainability Committee. I will tell you about both of them. For Sustainability Committee, there are really outstanding members out there in the community who have been wanting to join this, and Sustainability Committee is doing such a phenomenal job. There's nobody who wants to leave that committee, and so it is an opportunity to be able to use the expertise of some of the people in the community. And I think it's the right thing to do, and it will be up to the Sustainability Committee if they agree with that or not. I think it's a good thing to do, and we will be able to use, there are two really, one of them is actually a professor at UW, he's retired now. He has done tremendous amount of work for our lakes, limnology, and the other is Deborah Weitzel, who started the sustainability programs at Milton High School. And about the bike and ped, there are only 2 citizen members on that committee. There are a whole pile of people who wants to be on that committee and they want to provide input. So it is just, we not only just need 4, we probably need a lot more on that committee, but I'm recommending 2 more there. So yes, Howard.
So we're expanding these committees for specific individuals to be placed on them?
This is not what I heard, and I made a motion to refer them, and
Yes.
I have no problem making a motion to refer them to the committees. Committees can discuss them, and if we decide to bring it back to council. However, having heard what you just said, I'm very uncomfortable with the idea that the whole basis of this is so that we can put people that have already been pre-picked onto a committee. That I'm a little uncomfortable with the way that this is going.
Well, I'm just giving 2 examples that we have 2 excellent people who are available and they have been wanting to be on some of the committees, and But we will consider. There may be more people who will apply as well, and we will consider whoever is available. But I agree with you. It's up to the sustainability committee whether they agree or not agree or what they want to do. Yes, Howard.
I think you're approaching the bottom of a slippery slope when you try to do this. There are a lot of very, very qualified people in the community all over the place willing to donate their time, and sometimes we have difficulty finding who they are, and other times we have them standing at the door waiting to get in. But to just willy-nilly start putting people on committees, I think is a pretty dangerous thing, because all of a sudden you're swelling the size of committees up, and I don't think that's appropriate. We set the limits on people in the committees years ago, and I think unless there's some outstanding reason why you want to change that number, I can't support what you're trying to do.
Yes, Joanna.
So I think the referral is appropriate, and we should hear back from those committees. And I would just hope that, depending on what we hear back from the committee, that would be one of the resources we would look to for any future changes.
Absolutely. It's simply a referral. And yes, Elizabeth.
I chose to second this because I agree that I think that the committees deserve a chance to talk about adding fresh blood, if you would per se that. And I guess one of the things that really strikes me is after the last election, I have a lot of people in my area, especially millennials, who want to be involved, and prior to this probably did not want to be involved, and I think they deserve a chance to at least people to think about that.
And the other is some of these committees, we had the membership, in 82, well, many years ago, the population of Milton is now 19,000. It is not a little small town where it used to be. And I think, anyway, so I don't think I need to say more. Yes, Howard.
Okay, I was going to call a question, so stop
question.
Okay, yes.
When you send this for a referral, will you be sending those applications from those individuals along with that? Because it sounds like they're,
No, it is just for the committee to consider whether they
so
want
we
to.
wouldn't be considering,
No.
we'd have to consider just based on, do we need 2 more people?
That's
not whether
right.
who
That's
they
right.
are.
That's
Okay.
right. So no application, nothing. No, it's just whether the committee think that they have the need and they would like to, and it's up to them. So, yes.
Pradeep, is this
Yes.
going to go through the standard procedure of sending it to the License and Ordinance Committee?
We are simply changing when you send to license and ordinance, you involve essentially the attorneys, and in this case, it's just increasing, you are just changing one number. I don't think you need to go to
We
an
always
all.
consider license and ordinances, all committees are referring ordinance changes to us, even if it's for, a great example is Public Works, every time they want to change parking restrictions. We might get it for a 50-foot stretch of street, but we still approve it. And I think this should go to Ellen. I think it's premature. Well, it might be premature, but I think it needs to be part of the process.
I think that's correct. I mean, we aren't even looking yet whether we want to draft such an ordinance. We're letting the jurisdictional committees review it first, but I would think if they say yes, they want to, the next stage would be to send that topic to Illinois. I don't think it even needs to come back to the council. It would go next to Illinois.
Okay. Any more questions or comments? Okay, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so motion passes. So the next one is Sustainability Committee, and it's the student Jessica Kim, and she's simply outstanding candidate for this one. So I need a motion to approve.
I move approval.
Need a, okay. Any questions or concerns?
Is this increasing the membership?
No, this does not increase the membership. There was a
No, this is a non-voting student member.
yeah, this is a non-voting member, and the student who was there, that she graduated, and this is simply filling that position. Okay, all those in favor say, I call the question, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the motion passes. So the next one is miscellaneous update on Parliamentary and University Avenue intersection improvement options. Staff. Abby's right there.
Our civil engineer, Tom Spencer, is going to present the options for the Parliamentary and University intersection project that we've been discussing in open session. We will then ask the council to go into closed session, at which point Father Wilk from St. Bede's is here somewhere. There you are, right in front of you. Father Wilk would like to be present for a discussion specifically regarding trees at St. Bernard's property. At that point, we will excuse Father Wilk and go into closed session to discuss issues related to negotiation for the project. So here's Tom with options. Yeah.
All right, thank you, everyone. I've been working closely with city staff to look at all options for this intersection, and maybe the first thing I can do is just kind of give a brief overview of the existing conditions at the intersection. So currently, as most of you know, on University Avenue through the Parliamentary area, there's 4 lanes of traffic. There's 2 eastbound lanes and 2 westbound lanes. The outside lanes act as through lanes for through traffic. The inside lanes act as a combination through and left turn lane. So anyone wanting to make left turns going northbound on the Parliamentary or southbound on the Parliamentary, share that left turn lane with through traffic, so that if someone's waiting to make that left turn, it backs up traffic and creates a potentially dangerous situation. The biggest issue after looking at this intersection a little bit closer, volumes are increasing. There's some congestion there. It's only going to get worse in the future. I would argue that the biggest concern right now for this intersection is the accident rate. The crash rate at this intersection is at 2.0 crashes per million vehicles entering, which is extremely high compared to the statewide average. Across the state, anytime there's...
What's the statewide average?
Below 1.
Okay, so it's really twice.
I think it's around 0.7 or 0.8.
More than twice.
Yeah. And anytime that you see a crash rate over 1.5 crashes per million vehicles entering, any community or jurisdiction is suggested to take a close look at it and see what's going on, because there's definitely an issue there. Luckily, the traffic data that we work with the police department in gathering and reviewing went back for 5 years. Luckily, there were no fatalities during that time, which is great. However, the number and frequency of crashes was very high, like I mentioned. So what is this intersection going to do in the future? Looking at traffic projections, we look out approximately 13 to 15 years. We did traffic counts in 2015, so 15 years projected ahead would be in 2030. And there are many turn movements at the intersection that will turn to a level of service path. And level of service just is a very brief and easy way to describe what the grade is of an intersection and specific turn movements from A all the way down to F, and there'll be many F movements by that time if nothing is done. So I think right now, let me just walk through kind of the options that my staff and I have kind of sketched up, just to try to look at any different option that we can do at this intersection. I guess first and foremost, after looking at the traffic counts, after looking at the accident data, this intersection is screaming and begging for dedicated left-hand turn bays on both eastbound and westbound University Avenue, which is what I mentioned. And so what that does is we need to widen the roadway. And the alternatives that we looked at discuss which way we could widen the roadway and what impacts those have. So option number 1 that we looked at, you'll see here that we're in your packets, is a north widening option. And so what that does is it takes the traffic from 4 lanes of traffic to 5 lanes of traffic by adding that left turn bay, both on eastbound and westbound, like I mentioned, and it pushes the entire roadway from back of sidewalk to back of sidewalk approximately 15 feet. It has 11-foot turn bay, and then we allow a little extra space for improved curb and gutter and a terrace area between the curb and gutter and the sidewalk. Just general impacts that you'll see is the new sidewalk and roadway has a big impact on PDQ property, extends through the fire department apron, through this parking lot here, and then also has a significant impact on the church property as the sidewalk is shown going through the existing trees in front of the church. Again, that's the north widening option, no impacts to the south with that option. The second alternative that we reviewed after we understood that the impacts to the trees could be significant is what we call the north widening with compromise. And so basically I sat down with our designers and said, how can we design this intersection while widening to the north, but keeping the cross section of this roadway as narrow as possible while still meeting the same needs as far as traffic, safety, those types of things. And so what we did to skinny up the roadway a little bit, one of the outside through lanes going each direction for eastbound and westbound, we reduced from 11-foot wide to 10-foot wide, which is the minimum. And then the other narrowing that we did was on the north side of the roadway, instead of having a 5-foot wide grass terrace and a 6-foot wide concrete sidewalk, we shrunk that down and made it just an 8-foot wide sidewalk tied up to the back of the curb. And so that saved us 5 feet of space. And you can see impacts to the fire department apron here are much less. Still a significant impact to the PDQ as we're going through the building here, and still an impact to the church, but less of an impact to the church, and potentially save a number of those trees in front of the building. Next option that we reviewed is south widening. So there we hold the north curb line where it is so that we have no impacts to the north. We push out all the widening to the south. You can see here significant impacts include impacts to the Senex property as the new sidewalk is going through the pumps. Roman Candle Building. And here we have enough space that the city had already acquired back when the bank was built. 17 feet of space was already acquired there. And so we would not have to go onto the bank property. However, there are a couple trees there that would have to get removed as part of this option. The fourth option we looked at is let's just try to keep the roadway centered and see what that does. We'll take a little bit from the north, a little bit from the south. What that did, you can see here, it definitely minimized the impact of the fire station property. We could probably tie in before we get to the apron likely. Still a significant impact to the PDQ property as the sidewalk and roadway still goes through their building. Less of an impact to the church as, again, we could probably miss a number of those trees similar to the skinnier north option. However, on the south, still significant impacts, including Senex. We would probably be taking out those pumps and this business, as well as the Roman Candle Building. The sidewalk goes right through the building. As you know, the building is currently tied up to the property. And less of an impact in front of the bank. Like I mentioned, we already have the 17 feet there to work with that the city owns as part of the right-of-way. The fifth option that could be discussed is the do nothing option and not change anything out there. Like I mentioned previously, with concerns over safety, increased traffic in the future, there's definitely some major concerns there. A couple other things I wanted to just mention would be the county's planning on continuing the University Avenue project, tentatively scheduled for next year. That would include this section. I know the city's paying for a portion of that project. If the county came through and resurfaced this, the city's going to be paying money for infrastructure that's probably going to have to rip out in a number of years anyway to do a project similar to this. I think something else, just from my opinion, to consider is that looking at the traffic counts in this intersection and the volumes that go through this area, I I know I brought up to one of our traffic engineers that, I personally, if I'm traveling westbound, avoid making this left turn just for the safety concerns that I mentioned. If someone stops you, you can't see someone that might be coming on the outside lane. You do make a left turn earlier or find another way. And our traffic engineer looked at those counts, and he said that the left turns are quite low, and it does seem like people are avoiding making those turns, essentially turning into your downtown to spend time in the downtown, potentially spend time at your restaurants, businesses, and driving past and heading home on the west side. I think that's all I had as far as the general discussion on the options.
Okay, so questions for Tom? Yes, Howard.
The county comes through as planned next year, still in the books for next year, to do this portion, the second phase of University Avenue. Could we make a decision and get something done in enough time to avoid conflict with that process?
How are you saying that the goal would be to do it all at once, you're saying, all in 1 year with the county? From a design, bidding, and construction standpoint, at this point, no problem. I guess my timing concern would be the real estate and acquisition process, how long that might take. I guess I'll maybe let other people comment on, and possibly Larry, but we're already sitting in mid-July. There's operating businesses here that one way or another are going to get impacted in potential relocations, those types of things. Right. And we're only probably 9 months away from the construction season next year. Those things take time.
So,
Yes,
but
Joanna.
the project doesn't have to go forward next year. The county still has options if they want to go the following year or even into 2020.
That's my understanding, is that the city staff has been discussing with them, the concerns here, and there's things going on, a lot to discuss here, and that, potentially this could get pushed to a 2019 construction project rather than a 2018 construction project. I wasn't personally in on those conversations, but I know they took place.
Any more questions for Tom? Any more questions for Tom from anybody? Yes.
Out of the multiple plans, the compromise north side widening, you talk about shrinking down the lanes. I guess it would be the outboard lanes on the north side and the south side.
Correct.
You said it goes from like 11 to about 10. I thought I read someplace it was more like a foot and a half, but I don't really care. My question is, I know this is Madison now, but just taking when Park Street goes and becomes Gammon, there's a part where it necks down, and I'm not a horrible driver, but that's the one point where it necks down, where I'm like, the roads get that much narrower each lane. You're just like, this is where I'm always a lot more worried that I'm going to be hit by the sides, somebody pulling out of their driveway, and I just don't have much room. How tight are we talking about here? And for my benefit or my comparison, because I haven't measured the road in Madison, maybe you have not either, but can we compare the necking down on Gammon to the necking down that we're talking about here?
I guess off the top of my head, I'm not sure
Okay.
what's on Gammon.
Sure.
In any design criteria that a municipality or the DOT would set, there's always a desirable and a minimum. And 11 or 12 foot lanes is definitely desirable. And space aside, if we had all the room in the world, we would design it for 11 foot lanes. That said, in this type of environment and these type of speeds, 10 foot is still considered a minimum and would not be going outside of design criteria that's not accepted in other places. Definitely does feel tighter. I won't argue that. And that's one of the reasons that we leave the inside lanes at 11 foot. They're closer to the turn lanes. People are maneuvering and just slowing down and stopping just to give people a little bit more buffer and comfort while you're driving. So I don't know if I fully answered your question.
Could you tell us the speed limit at this intersection, this area?
It is, I think it's 35, right? Off the top of my head. 30.
25 on Parma.
Parma would be 25.
I was just making a comparison. I believe the section you're talking about is 35. And I don't think the lanes are actually marked very well. I think in some cases there's not even a differential between the inside and the outside lane.
There's a marking.
It's
When
marked.
you get down the hill, there's a marking. I don't think when you're on the
Going
top
up
of
the
the hill.
hill.
Going up the hill there is too,
There
and
is
I
too.
guess my follow-up question would be, you mentioned that you don't know, and I fully respect that, the spacing of the lanes in Madison on Gammon. But you said there's a minimum range that's acceptable. Can I take from that Gammon Road would not have been allowed to go below those minimums as well, so that those may be pretty close to 10 feet lanes? Again, I don't expect you to know, but if they did like a 9-foot wide lane, would it have been stopped by the city of Madison?
I guess I think I'd have to double check the facilities development manual that we rely on for our design standards. There might be a couple times where they go down to 9, but for out there, I don't know if I have enough information, I'd say, to comment on, but
okay.
It depends on who has the jurisdiction on the roadway too, and what they'll allow. If there's a residential street out in one of the neighborhoods here in Middleton, obviously it's a little different as far as jurisdiction, where today that's a county highway, county jurisdiction. In the future it'll be city, but that's currently a county jurisdiction. So whoever has the jurisdiction has to weigh in on those and make the option if they would allow anything different.
So Tom, you will find that information, right?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Elizabeth.
This may be more of a question for Eileen, and it may not be appropriate right now. If it's not, please let me know. But looking at this and then thinking 10 years forward, the city, I understand, wants to develop the Parmenter Street corridor. Is at any point in time, are we going to need to widen the Parmenter side street of this? And should that impact sort of what we're thinking about when we think about this intersection?
I think the only thing that we have talked about as a staff, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, too, is potentially having a turn lane on the north side of it. So we haven't looked at any numbers or any anticipation of needing to widen it further than what it is. Because I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong,
Eileen, do you mean a left turn lane in addition to the right turn lane that's currently there?
Just a dedicated right turn lane potentially.
Yes.
Although I think there's some discussion about, from our engineers about whether or not that's absolutely needed or not.
Because we already have the left turn lane.
Right, but a dedicated right turn, just to get people separated. But I think you can go up to about 10,000 cars a day on 2 lanes. Is that right, or is that just highway?
I can speak.
Okay, Tom can speak to it too as an engineer, but from a planning perspective, I think we feel like the cross-section that was put in, both in the old Highway 12 portion and then the part from downtown to the roundabout, fits pretty well with what we anticipate happening there.
As far as the southbound, currently there's a left turn and a through right. And so we modeled it both ways. We looked at leaving this as is, which is what's shown here. We also looked at, okay, how does it improve the intersection if we take a look at a separate right turn bay, a through lane, and a left turn lane. And all the modeling we did that projects through year 2030, we don't see a huge improvement as far as the traffic operations at the intersection as far as level of service is concerned. I won't argue against that. It would be nice to have one there just to help traffic move through, but one of the things that we found was that the backup that occurs on the southbound traffic in the center and the left turn lanes is going to be far enough where even if you added a right turn bay here, people would not be able to get into it because the traffic's backed up far enough. And that left turn bay would have to be extended so far that it would start impacting properties up here that just doesn't really make sense as far as the operations of the intersection.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Tom? Okay, so thank you, Tom. So we're going to convene into closed session now.
I would make the motion we convene into closed session.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, we are in the open session, and the first item is the direction concerning the Parliamentary University intersection project.
I'm going to suggest we defer till we get a little more information on some issues, and I would like for Abby to make a table with all these pros and cons for each option, so that we could see it all in one spot.
Okay.
Can I make a friendly amendment? Could we,
Yes.
as part of that, reject the north option at this point?
Yes, and I would
Yes.
say reject the north option.
Okay. Anybody wants to amend it or second it? Okay. Let's have a discussion now. So what do you guys, well, any questions or discussion or concerns?
Rejecting the north option
Okay.
and getting more information on the others.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with this? Okay, if there are no more questions, I call question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay,
I'd
so,
like to eliminate options.
can we have a,
That just might be-
more motion? or that's it? Okay, so the second is the direction concerning the downtown plaza project. We did not discuss in the closed session now, so there isn't much we can do about it now in the open session. So we will have to put in the agenda
I
for,
would move we defer it then.
okay, I need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So need a motion to adjourn.
Adjournment.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you guys. Great.